Hey guys, this is Tom from Tom Builds Stuff, and today I'm going to show you how I built this Crescent Moon crystal display shelf. This shelf is based on a design of a Crescent Moon shelf from J. Drew Silvers. You can check out his Etsy store, J. Drew Carpentry. This isn't an exact copy. I made the shape easier for me to build, I made it a little bigger, and I used red oak instead of maple. He uses a local maple species that has a pretty cool grain pattern. The main reason I decided to make one instead of buy one is he has a limited supply because he makes them all by hand. And I needed this for Christmas, and there were none available. The other reason is because I like to make stuff myself. There's a link in the description to the plans on my website. You can see more detailed drawings, list of tools, and the materials you'll need. I tried to keep the tools simple: jigsaw, square, compass, ruler, and sanders. If you have a bandsaw, you'll get better cuts and save a decent amount of time sanding. We'll start by drawing our center line 6 inches up from the bottom of this 1x12 board. I'm using a combination square to draw the line perpendicular to the back edge. The line only needs to extend about 10 inches into the wood. On that line, I'll mark the centers of the two circles. The large circle is 4 5/8 inches from the side, and the second is 3 inches to the left of that, or 1 5/8 inches from the left edge. I set the radius of the compass to 5 3/4 inches, and I'll put it on the rightmost center mark and draw the outer arc. It's too big to draw the entire circle on the board, so I'll just draw where I can. Next, I set the compass to 4 1/2 inches and place it on the inner center mark to draw the arc that will form the inner curve of the crescent moon. I'm not great at drawing freehand, but you can see we have a nice crescent shape forming. The design also incorporates 2 half-moon shelves. With the compass set to 1 1/2 inches, I'll draw 2 half circles on the scrap edge of the board. I just eyeballed the location and made sure it was far enough away from the other marks. I'm using a fine-tooth scrolling blade in my jigsaw to cut out the shape. I'll mount on some scrap on my sawhorses to use as a cutting table. Keeping the plate of the jigsaw flat against the board, and I'm cutting just outside the line, and I'll sand it down to the line in a later step because, I don't want to accidentally cut into the line. I can't really make precise curves with the jigsaw, but I could get pretty close enough, and I'll just cut around the outside until I have the whole shape cut off. I took my time to make sure I cut the shape accurately, but I sped this up quite a bit for the video. Every once in a while, I'll stop and I'll reposition the board just so I could get a better angle to make the cut so I could see the line clearly. The inner curve is cut out the same way as the first. Again, it's sped up, but I took my time so I could stay close to but outside the line. As needed, I'll readjust the workpiece, making sure it's well supported and the jigsaw fence is flat. When I get to the end, I want the scrap to fall away, but the moon shape to be stable so the saw doesn't jump. For the 2 half-moon shelves, I clamped the scrap piece I drew the shelves on onto my cutting table, and then I just cut them out like I did the other parts with the jigsaw, staying on the outside of the line, and I'll smooth them out with the sander. What I'm doing here is I just set up the combination square so that where the pencil line starts, when I draw the line, it's at 3 7/8. So then I just have to draw the line to the 3 mark. So I just set it so that it's at 3 there, and I'll draw the line, and that should be 7/8. Then turn around this direction, and then the same thing, because the markings are the same on the same side, so we line it up. And draw to the 3, and that'll be 7/8, and flip it around again, and then line it up here so that the 3 is on the end of the line, and that'll, all right, that's perfect. So just keep going this way, now this way. And I'm working with the inside corner. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but it seems to be working out really well for me. Then draw to the 3. Then flip it around again. Get it, the 3 lining up there. Draw next line. Just keep going like this until I have all the steps drawn. I sped up the video again. I'm just drawing 7/8 inch long lines at alternating 45-degree angles to mark up the stairs on this 1x2 oak board. I eventually wound up going with a total of 8 steps, but in this video it's only 7. The other video didn't show the markings as clearly as this one, so I did this one for the video, but just know that in total you'll want 8 steps. And then I'm just going to draw a 45 at the end of the riser. Just do it how I did all of them so I can line up with the 3 so it's all lined up. Okay. Yeah, and I think he cut his thinner. He did a smaller riser there, but I don't know, I didn't like the way that looks, so I'm going to do this a little differently. Then I'm going to come here and it just makes it easier with the tools I have to do it this way too. I cut out the stairs with a jigsaw. A bandsaw would have been able to make more accurate cuts, but I don't have a bandsaw. The jigsaw blade could bend a little bit and not make perfectly square cuts, especially since the board I'm cutting on is so small the fence can't really sit on it that straight. I spent a lot of time sanding to get the treads of this stair square enough, even though I did this really slow. Again, the video is sped up. I'm using one of the boards from my plywood cutting table to make these cuts. It has a notch that's the perfect size to support the wood while leaving space to make the cuts, and I clamped the board on one end. I'll put a link to my plans for building one of the cutting tables in the description. If you don't have a table saw, it's a great table to make and it's pretty cheap. A larger floor or tabletop belt or drum sander is preferred, but I don't have those. Using a portable belt sander clamped down securely to some scrap plywood and some scrap 1x material to support the work surface worked fine as long as I was very careful. I sanded the edge of the components I cut out first, using 80 grit sandpaper to get rid of the extra wood outside the line and create a nice smooth curve. Later I went back with 120 grit sandpaper to give it a smoother surface, and then I also sanded the surfaces to get rid of the pencil marks and smooth out the surfaces for finishing. I also sanded the edges of each piece just to give it a little rounder shape so it wasn't so square. The half moon shelves are really small, so your fingers wind up being very close to the belt, so it's really important to take your time and be careful. With this video, I've sped things up again just to make it go faster, but I was very careful to get a nice smooth shape and keep my fingers away from the belt. For the stairs, I could only do the outside edges with the belt sander, so I used that as much as I could. To get the treads and risers, I needed to switch to a detail sander. It took a bit of sanding and even some shaving with a utility knife to get the steps flat. I positioned the moon so the top is pointing up and clamped the stairs where I thought they looked good so I could drill some pilot holes through the back and countersinks for screws to attach them to the base. I did the same thing for the shelves. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording at the time, so check the blog post for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the shelf here and then slide it along and then up. And it's just kind of going to eyeball where it's going to go. For the stain, I first tried out Polyurethane Jacobean, which was too light. Then I tried Minwax True Black, which was dark but didn't have the nice brown tones. I tried mixing 20% Jacobean with True Black, and that was starting to look good. Eventually I settled on 25% Jacobean mixed with True Black. I applied the stain to all the components and I let it sit for 15 minutes and then I'll wipe it off. Very happy with the way the color came out. With some paper towels, I wiped off the excess stain on all the pieces and let them dry overnight. You guys know what wiping looks like, I hope, so there's no need to show. I'm going to be applying the finish on it. I'm not sure that he used a finish coat on it, but I don't know, I think it's a good idea to apply a protective finish. I'm using Minwax fast drying polyurethane in clear satin. I think the satin look would look better for this. I have been stirring this for 3 minutes, and it's a good idea to stir it, you know, as you do it. I'm just going to be using these foam applicators for this. What I did was I hammered some nails into some scrap I was using. This is just gonna keep the back up with minimal touching on the back, so that the polyurethane can dry, and I can do both sides at the same time. And for the other parts, I put the screws in where they were gonna go, and I just tied some string around it so I could hang them up. That way it's easier to do both sides. I'm just gonna dip a little bit of the foam applicator into the polyurethane and start roughly in the middle, and then come back out. I don't want to get too much on here. Overlap a little bit, go out, and then come back in. Try to get a nice, even coat. I do want to go with the direction of the grain, so that if there are any marks, be a little hidden because they'll be in the direction of the grain. Then I'm just going to lap off. Okay, now I can place it on the nails and then do the rest. I'm going to do the edges first. Just because I don't want a rim of polyurethane on the edge, because some will spill over onto the top there. So I can smooth that out when I'm doing the top. Not really pressing too hard with the brush either. Does warm up the colors a little bit and makes the grain a little more pronounced. But as it dries to a satin finish, right now it's very glossy because it's wet. As it dries, let's get that hole in there. As it dries to the satin finish, it should be a little better. That looks pretty good. And that should level out as it dries. Alright, now time to do the components that go on. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit in here so that I'm not brushing over what I just did so I don't get any drips. Now, I'll hang that up to dry. Do the next one. First I'm going to do the edges, so I could finish off nicely on the face. I don't really want to go too heavy with this. Right now it looks very shiny, but it will dry to a satin finish. And it's important to stir it. That's why I stirred it so much. And these stairs are a little bit tricky to do. I want to keep the string out of the way, so that I'll do stairs, make sure I'm getting in to the corner. I don't want to squeeze because that's how you get air bubbles. It's not that important to do the back, but I will do the back mostly just to kind of level out the drips that did get on the back from doing the stairs. Okay, this is going to dry for about 4 to 6 hours, and I'll come back with some 220 grit sandpaper, smooth it out, and do a second coat. I'm going to do a little bit of sanding, sand out some of the drips, and then I'm going to give it another coat of poly, and that'll be it. Just do a very light sanding. And then wipe it off. Just any like globs anywhere. Take a little more time to get that smooth. Sanding very lightly in the direction of the grain. Same thing here. Really lightly, just so it starts to gray up a little bit. Again, I stirred the polyurethane for a while before I started this. You want to stir it well, but try not to get too many air bubbles in there. And that's going to help keep the right sheen on it. Okay, so here it is all finished. I drilled holes in the back and I countersunk them using a countersink bit to attach the shelves and the stairs. It's all finished now. The finish came out pretty nice. I like the way it looks, the sand finish. There's a little bit of a sheen to it, but not a whole lot. You can still see the character of the wood. Let's get this in focus. Got the nice dark color I was looking for. And under certain lighting conditions, it does look shiny, but it's in person, it doesn't seem as much. It's not very glossy. And it looks pretty nice. Very happy with the way it came out. It's not exactly like the one that guy made, but pretty close. And I think it looks nice. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I haven't been making a lot of videos yet, but you can find a lot of great articles on my site that cover building cabinets and drawer boxes, closet organizers and other furniture and DIY projects, some home improvement tips, tool reviews, and information on structured media wiring, so please check out tombuildstuff.blogspot.com, linked in the description below.